It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce, Michael, and Ivy. I know a story of high strangeness or two. Let's do this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And our super producer,
Riley Bray.
I'm really leaning into the art bell when I say high strangeness now. It's getting more and more high strangeness.
Yeah.
I like
it's getting, I gotta, come on. I mean, we're following in the footsteps of Art Bell. Hey, good to see you, boys.
Likewise.
We have a great guest this week, a returning guest this week, who we're going to bring in just a moment. I'm very excited because it's the end of the month. That means we're dipping back into the L files this week. We haven't done this in a minute. Who's got their microwave burrito ready to go? Who's beeping in in the background? Somebody get their burrito.
I don't know, man.
Riley, that might be you.
Some sort of synthesizer alarm going off, or who knows?
Yes. Riley just has random ambient noises happening around him at all times.
You cannot fault anybody for a microwave burrito going off. That's what happens.
Get that burrito out. Everyone at home, get your burritos out. We're reading encounter stories sent in by you, the listeners. If you have a case of high strangeness that you cannot explain, please write to us at BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com. And our guest this week is going to bring in an L file of their own that hits pretty close to home. So we'll bring them in momentarily. But before we do that, Riley, can we nominate a 5-star Club Scout of the Week over from Amazon Podcasts?
Well, sure. How about Lee Shannon? The title of this review is This Love? Okay, I don't know. Who is beeping?
It's not me.
I don't think it's me.
No.
Somebody's beeping.
Is it our guest?
It's probably my. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Old school
You're good.
Club Scout listeners may
You better come back with
voice.
a burrito, though.
Go ahead, read that review, Riley.
All right. Reviewed in the United States on December 15th, 2023. This podcast is a perfect mix of high strangeness, comedy, and entertainment. They give a light and airy take on the dark and spooky corners of our human existence that will leave you laughing, tingling, and wishing you could bear all of their children in your womb.
Whoa, wait a minute. I did not read this ahead of time.
Okay. I continue. Bryce brings his grandpa energy. Yeah, you heard me. Hot grandpa energy.
HGE,
Not because
baby.
of his age, but because of his vibes.
Sure,
I can't
I'll
explain
take
it, but it's a good thing, and you'll just have to believe me. Michael is the mother and the father of the group, but he's the kind that's really hot and cool, so you always want to hang out at their house.
Oh, no.
Riley is the hot older musician brother that's mysterious and perhaps dangerous, but you're not so sure, so you're shy about it. This podcast has gotten me through some stressful times. Just listen, you won't regret it. Okay, bye. P.S. I hope this was unhinged enough. I am both married and too old to bear children, but I love you guys. 5 stars.
It was indeed. Thank you,
That was
Leah.
a wild ride
Wow.
of an Amazon
Wild
review.
ride.
You
We're
are
gonna have
taking
So wait,
the
assignment to
zaniest
heart.
Amazon reviews ever, and I'm here for it, big time.
So I'm Bryce's son/daughter, and then Riley is my child. If I'm following the family tree construct.
Yes, in the mythology of this review, yeah. Don't think about it too hard.
Mythology
Okay.
of this
All right.
review.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's bring in this week's guest. Bryce, will you please do the honors?
Yes, absolutely. Our guest this week is returning to the show after his long absence. You might know him from his performances in Windwalker, The First Mission, Hawaii Five-0, or Bury the Bride, Club Scouts of all timelines. Please welcome back actor, writer, director, Adam Marcinowski. Yes! Woo!
Adam.
What's up,
Wow.
Adam? How are you, man?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Adam.
Great.
Good.
Now, Adam is in the Riley size club of our guests.
Yes.
Occasionally, we're blessed with guests that could maybe go top to top with Riley. Wait a
man
minute,
of
that
great
doesn't
stature.
sound right.
That's right.
You know.
And the thing is, we both have deep voices too. We both have
Yes.
deep voices, so it's like, all right, now you get the height and then you get the deep voice as well too.
Yeah,
So
I
Yeah.
remember you guys paired up together when we were doing this back at the clubhouse, but before the pandemic. And
yes.
Adam, you were back in one of the OG First 20. If you old school listeners remember, we did the Mayaka Skunk Ape with Adam, episode 19.
That's where it all began.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
Did anybody lose an orangutan? That's where it all started.
Totally. That was one of the best experiences ever, going into that little studio back there in the woods. You're just like, oh my God, where am I? I'm not in the hills anymore.
Right.
I'm
through
somewhere
a portal. Over the river and through a portal.
Heck yeah.
That's right. Adam, how have you been? What's new? I know you have a story for us tonight, but before we get into it, how have you been?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just, I'm living life, living here in Southern California, a little north of you guys now in Ventura County.
Oh, I love Ventura.
Yeah, Ventura, it's great. The weather's been pretty crazy lately. A lot of the waves, big, like 10 to 15 foot waves, and basically like set all these waves onto the streets and everything like that. And people were paddleboarding and everything. So it's been a pretty crazy winter already now. But no, it's great, man. Part of me.
Oh yeah, you were up where those I saw this on Instagram where those he's not shitting us. Like there were huge
surge,
waves coming.
What's interesting about the storm surge is why those people didn't realize it was happening is because it's got all that momentum behind it, right? It's like a tsunami. It starts out small and all of a sudden you're like, wait, this thing ain't stopping. It just keeps coming and it keeps coming and it keeps coming. So what they built is they built huge sandberms out there on the beach. I live about probably like 300 yards from the beach now. So they build up these huge sand, they call them berms or whatever they're called. So when the waves hit them, hopefully it'll prevent any more damage.
Adam, that's how the old sailors used to catch their wives. The merfolk, they would just stand out when the surge came in, open up their arms, and they'd catch a mermaid.
I always wonder, do you think they're as attractive as sailors said they were?
Might be, you know.
That's probably the scurvy
you pretty much hook up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've been away. You've been locked up with a bunch of other dudes at sea for a long time.
Probably.
You'll kiss it. You'll kiss anything.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows? Mermaids may exist. Was it 3% of the ocean is getting explored? Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Less than the moon. More surface area of the moon has been explored than our ocean floors, which is crazy to think about.
I think the crazy part I was thinking about this for tonight. There's so many topics that can like come together and all this that you could talk about this stuff for like days, and
or years,
or 6 years weekly.
Like you're so funny. Or years, or you guys have been doing this for years. But I think what's always interesting is like we all want to. I wish I was an expert at this stuff. Like I was watching Jeremy Corbell's special. Have you seen that yet on
Sure.
Tubi? It's fantastic. It definitely showcases that there is something unique happening in space and time, or whatever you want to call it, whether they're extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, or I don't know, or some sort of like manipulated scam. But I don't think it's the latter.
Well, we're in interesting times, and former guest and friend of the show, Jeremy. He's really spearheading this movement to really help coalesce these military witnesses to reveal their UFO UAP encounters. And it's sort of what I love about this is, first of all, UFO encounters happen all across the board, but when you get them in military bases and with people in groups like that, especially around military who are trained observers, and when they get this on camera and on their high-tech equipment, then it's really, grade A evidence. So I love what he's doing for this. And he's also, amongst other things too, he's really helping take this sort of subject to the mainstream. And if you notice, people don't so much play that X-Files music when they're talking about UFO UAPs anymore. It's, the taboo nature of it has been sort of shaved off, and that's a good thing. So a lot's come from this.
Well, these encounters change people's lives. Whether it was a disc, whether it was, the diamond shape in the sky, whether it was that, the event over Michigan that happened, 20 years ago where all these, UFOs were spotted and they were like, well, my God, this changed my life,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's It sounds like you have a story of someone close to you who had an encounter that might have changed their life. Is it time? Bryce, do you want to cue this up, set Adam up, or should we just jump into it?
I sent Bryce. Earlier the other day, I sent Bryce some pictures that my father had emailed to me. So Bryce kind of has an idea of what he saw. So what I'm going to do is I printed out some stuff that my dad wrote down that he emailed somebody. I'm not going to mention any names in terms of what's in the email, so I'll redact that as I go along. So I'm going to go read this.
I like this. Redact. We're getting a little already. We're obscuring what's happening here.
We're Pentagonish right now.
This is a podcast skiff right now. We're secure.
But Adam, this is a story we can safely say is an encounter that happened to your own father.
Yeah, you can absolutely say that. Okay. So a little background. My dad moved to Hawaii in 2000, I think 1999 or 2000. And I was still living on the mainland. And so my dad fell in love with Hawaii when we went to go visit. When I played football there, he went to visit there, and he's like, "I want to move here and be there." So this is like one of the first times within the first year, I believe, that this happened. Okay. So on June 3rd, 2000, it was a level of reality beyond my comprehension. I'm sure you will appreciate the skepticism, as it can compare only to something you would see in a science fiction movie. I do hope you will be able to show your friend, as she will recognize the possibility it was either of angelic or extraterrestrial origin. If it wasn't, it was certainly someone or some being with incredible scientific knowledge or ancient. If anyone is skeptical of what I saw, I'm willing to take a lie detector test at their convenience. I also wanted to mention I documented this event with the National UFO Reporting Center on June 4th, 2000. That's MUFON.
Great.
I can't remember now, but it was close to that day. It's on the internet at National UFO Reporting Center, the NUFORC.org. Wish I had that thing underneath the screen.
NUFORC, yeah.
So I'm going to move around here. Okay.
Might be different than MUFON, or maybe they changed their name.
Something
because there was
different.
Nightcap for a while too, so we'll look that up.
On the night of June 3rd, 2000, I've never said anything about this the way I'm writing it now. So, it really took a time for my dad to really get this down on a piece of paper and talk about it. I briefly told my son and wife, but they shrugged it off and let them, and I convinced myself that it was just something my mind made up. As I said on that night, June 3rd, 2000, I was looking up at all those strange rectangles vibrating. There was all kinds of things going on, trying to distract me at the time. First of all, as the rectangles moved in view from the clouds, a flock of birds flew underneath them. I've never seen a flock of birds in Hawaii flying at night since that day. Not only were there birds, but between the birds and the rectangles was something very dark flying, which I could barely make out. Then I saw in the dim light dark silhouettes up in the sky. They looked like the messenger Mercury with a strange hat, but they looked strangely odd, like the gargoyles you see on a medieval church. They seemed to have gangly legs and arms. And then it happened. It was fast, and I threw it quickly out of my mind because I knew it would overwhelm me. It's strange how quickly the mind can deal with detail when other things are going on. Anyway, the feeling was the same one. He had a dream that he had of evil at the mission in California a while back that we went to. So he had the same feelings while this was happening, same type of emotions came up. He believes it was an angelic event or some sort of extraterrestrial event that had a counterpart to it. And I thought this part was interesting. The counterpart is that evil was present. So it was almost as if there was good to it and there was evil to it as well.
Adam, before we go any further, can we set up some sort of context for our listeners as to how this event unfolded? I've sort of gone over these incredible slides that your father has provided, but just to give our listeners some context, let's set up like the time and the place. So we know he was in Hawaii, and this was, according to a slide, this was June 3rd, and this is of interesting note. It was right around the same time as the re-entry of the Compton Solar Observatory, which was a satellite in the South Pacific near the Marshall Islands west of Hawaii. So this
now, Bryce, did you just know that, or did you just pull that fact out of your head?
This, as I said, this is in the slides that Adam provided. So this is an interesting note, but I wanted to sort of give some context as to how this event sort of took place, and I'll just read the number one thing he wrote, or if Adam, you want to too. It says, the comic-like, so he's standing there, and on this first sort of visual image, you could see he's outside on this, beautiful landscape, and it says that these comet-like objects started coming from the northeast in the direction of the southeast at about 30 to 40 degrees above the horizon. Now, I want you listeners to imagine sort of these like little plasma, almost like spermatozoa, right? Like in a strange way. All objects appeared to be rotating counterclockwise on a double helix corkscrew path, which immediately sends off signals to me of, oh my God, helix, DNA, here we go again. I mean, that's a common theme, right? And then it does this double helix corkscrew in a path in a giant low arc over the North Pacific. Now, within the comets were these human-like structures that moved independent of each other, creating a hanging on for dear life observation. And, he goes on to describe these as almost like anthropomorphic and pendulant. In other words, it's almost like these angelic sort of images of struggling and coalescing and intertwining angelic beings, like in a strange way. Is that right, Adam, or...
Bryce, I couldn't have said it any better than that. I think when I think of what he saw, and I really wish my dad would join the show, but unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen, and that's fine. But it reminds me of what, if you look at biblical stuff and you think about Ezekiel and what Ezekiel saw, Ezekiel apparently, sitting there and he sees all this crazy stuff happening.
Yeah.
You could say that the event my father saw was very similar to that.
Well,
the Ezekiel's wheel you're talking about, which a lot of
he's down there by the river, and
people point to as a possible UFO encounter.
Yeah, and if you look, and here's what's interesting: you look on Instagram. I think I might have sent it to. I don't think I sent it to Bryce, but they had artificial intelligence go through what Ezekiel says in the Bible, and they came up with exactly what they think he saw, which is like this massive eye UFO-shaped thing with flares and everything popping out of it. And it was actually, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's unreal. Like if you saw that, you'd be like, what in God's name is that?
Well, Bryce, why don't you continue to read the description of the event that in this? Now we'll put up what pictures Adam's comfortable with up on our Instagram so people can.
No, you can put them all
look
up.
At this stuff. And then Adam, after Bryce, you read through these next couple descriptions of the encounter. Then Adam, let's hop back to the letter and hear more about your father's interpretation of what he saw.
Great. Let's do that. So these lifelike, almost biological, spermatozoa-like plasmic things are coming out of this sky, and they're swooping down in this arc before they head up into a cloud. Now, Adam's father's witnessing all this. Go up into a cloud. They're like
Bryce,
30
it's also from Kaneohe, Hawaii. So it's the windward side of the island. It's facing north. I think I'm right. The windward side of the island facing north.
So there's like 30 or 50 of these things. Now they just go up into this cloud, right? This cloud. Now he says that he doesn't see them once they're in the cloud, but what happens next sort of blows his mind. What comes out of this cloud are like these rectangular mirror-like devices. I'm going to go ahead and read from his slide. Now, I witnessed a large group of rectangles, 50 to 100, I couldn't count them all, emerge from the clouds high over my head at a small angle in front of me. They were all rising into the sky and vibrating violently, giving them the appearance of having wings like giant snow angels. They rose higher and became brighter and coalesced into a giant donut-like disc, which instantly formed a small black hole or orifice in the center. Now that orifice suddenly became larger with two more organic-like movements, creating the fourth disc as illustrated above. So now you've got this these spermatozoa go into this cloud, they come out of these mirrored rectangles that start to morph into these giant orbs, spherical orbs, and then they multiply with these black holes in the middle, and they seem to get bigger, right? It's crazy. And then the disc or torus containing these numerous macaroni-like entities, I can only imagine squirming, worming, caterpillaring entities, bumping and braiding their way around the torus, instantly separating mitolytically into 6 plasma orbs, which gets this, guys, exploded into a giant V formation, which retained its shape and then faded away off into the distance. How many times do we hear about these lights attached on these Delta craft that seem to sort of meander off on their own and then reformulate the craft? This is the first time I've heard of a story where something is coming off, going scooped up into a cloud, spit out a mirror, forming these objects, creating these Delta triangles. Now, I think this is incredible because Adam's father sort of described these as spherical comets, right? 30 or 40 degrees coming in the horizon, they sweep downward. And what I'm sort of fascinated with is that these tails moved in tandem and they appeared to rotate counterclockwise. He said they're plasma. It seemed to they have plasma flames holding their shape without dispersing or evaporating. And I love this part. They also had anthropomorphic appendages that moved like pennant flags or undulating independently of each other, which is just wild. So what do you guys make of this incredible experience? And then, Adam, let's hear more from your father.
I'm captivated. I kind of just want to jump to hear his dad's reaction. I have thoughts, but I want to save them.
Well, I will say this much. I think that it needs to be said that my father's life changed after this. He was never the same after that. Even talking to him, I mean, he's been talking about this event for the past 24 years religiously. Yeah. So it impacted him. It impacted his health. I know that he had heart issues that happened right after it. And a lot of things happened right after that event as well too. You had September 11th, you had, flooding and all sorts of stuff. So he kind of goes into that as well too. He describes the donut shape as complete chaos everywhere with objects bumping and banging into each other, like Bryce had described, like bumper cars, as they position themselves to divide into 6 large orbs, writhing with plasma shapes within each orb as they morphed into plasma-like comets. When they came to a stop, their tails slammed to the giant orbs, causing them to shudder, and they simply faded away in seconds. And then my dad also, this as well too, he kind of just brought all this information together, just remembering it all and kind of like boxing it in there. They weren't exactly rectangles, all the sides curved. They were convex and vibrating from side to side extremely fast. So if you can imagine maybe like a machine or something like that, that's vibrating really, really, really fast, but maintaining its integrity.
Just
it
building
almost looked like snow
probably.
angels.
Yeah.
Like a kid's snow angels, and you're seeing these coming down like hundreds of them.
Yeah.
He gives the example of like punching a piece of rectangular cardboard with a pencil and quickly twirling back and forth, rotating it a half circle. So imagine taking a pencil into a cardboard and just going back and forth with that.
His ability to capture so much detail in this is pretty great, because we have all these different phases. We have these sort of spermazoa-shaped things shooting into a cloud, coming out as these vibrating mirror things, morphing into a donut-shaped UFO, and then transferring into these, orb-like V, orbs lined up in a V structure. It's pretty cool that he was able to clock all of these steps in whatever sort of assembly that was taking place.
And so lastly, he says these
Oh, I was just going to say, can you give us some context as to your, maybe your dad's personality? Is he a pretty pragmatic guy? Is he open to encounters like this? Was he alone during the encounter?
He was alone during the encounter. He is completely open to things like this. He's always been into science fiction, UFOs. I remember when we were young, he used to take us to telescope parties. We used to go to telescope parties up in Washington, and we used to look at the sky, up there, when there's all those trees and there's not a lot of light pollution. You could see a lot of stars up there. My father's always been connected to that, to the universe, to the, just to anything involving space and time. And yeah, I could just talk about it for hours. And I almost feel like this event in a way was meant for him. Like, okay, you know what, let's just give you a little, okay, maybe it just said, hey, I want you to see this and let you know what's possible and what's out there.
A little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. So the last part my dad wrote down is these illustrations depict the entirety of the events so far. I still have to create several more, including the mycotic event illustration and the final V formation, but it'll take me some time. While the spheres were dividing, there was so much going on that I could only focus on one aspect of the event. I can only assume that each sphere looked the same as the other. One of the most interesting parts was at the end, when all the spheres reached their final destination. It was truly a sight to behold, watching the tail of the comet slap into the apex of the sphere of the V formation, and the whole entire thing started to evaporate.
Dang.
Wild.
So trippy, man.
Well, let's do this. Let's pause here.
Go.
And then let's come back and let's unpack more of this this event that happened to Adam's dad.
Alrighty.
Now, as our listeners know, I'm a very sensitive soul when it comes to THC. I like THC. It helps me feel creative. It helps me feel calm. It can help me sleep at night, but I need just a little bit at a time. So microdoses gummies are great for me. Riley, how about you?
For me, so much of my work is this prolonged, focused, creative work. And especially, like, let's say, knocking out this podcast every week. Sometimes it's so daunting to sit down and be like, all right, I got to do the edit, and I have to come up with a unique score that's unlike any of the other hundreds of scores I've done for this, and it all has to be done in the next 4 hours. And sometimes just a little microdose gummy just quiets down all those sort of anxiety voices, and it just kind of keys me into the edit, and it gets me laughing along with you guys again, and I'm right back in it. And then all of a sudden, I finished it. It's uploading to the Dropbox. It's going out to your ears, and I've just realized, like, oh yeah, I was just cruising on that little microdose the whole time. And I just find that incredibly helpful.
There you go.
Oh, I love it. Bryce, what should our Club Scouts do?
Get 30% off your first order, plus free shipping today at microdose.com. Promo code BCC. It's available nationwide.
That's microdose.com, promo code BCC for 30% off and free shipping.
Microdose.com, promo code BCC.
Okay, Adam,
Yeah.
Before the break and before we hit the end of that story, so your dad's standing on the beach, he's looking up, he sees this wild, I want to say celestial event,
For sure.
UFO occurrence, and you said earlier, or he said earlier in his letter, that he had a sense that there was both good and evil present. What did he mean by that?
He felt that there was darkness, the birds, there was something going on underneath that was dark. Like he felt the presence of both evil and good. I wish he would clarify that himself, but he goes in thinking that it's, you know, the yin and the yang of things. Like,
of course,
possibly that if we go in terms of like biblical here, that's Satan. You know, you have Satan, you have good, you have evil, you have angels, and you have demons. Mm-hmm. Looking at the pictures that my father sent me and that I sent to Bryce, that is the feeling he has. I would have to say.
So he's got a real biblical vibe here watching this event.
My dad's not very biblical. That's the thing, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So, you know,
is he a religious man? Was he brought up in a religious environment?
No, he was, but he's not like he's big time religious person. If anything, my dad is more scientific, realist, things like that. But yeah, like he said that he felt like he was watching good and evil at the same time.
Wow.
Well, I love.
I mean, this is clearly
Go ahead, Mike.
a big event.
I think the issue with it is that to clarify things, I think it's hard to clarify events like this because you have so much stuff going on at one time. Notice he has to focus on one thing because this event would put you at awe. You'd be like, what the heck is going on? Right?
Yeah, truly.
So I think with anybody who's involved in this, they, to be frankly honest, are trying to narrow down the main points.
Well, this is not uncommon in people who eyewitness UFOs, that there is also a subliminal message that's happening during the event. A lot of times we hear about people who are getting the apocalyptic visions when they're seeing UFOs or during alien encounters. You know, that there does seem to, whatever this phenomenon is, seems to have some sort of psychic impact that makes us think very much on a macrocosmic level about these big ideas.
Yeah.
It seems like he got a sense of like the unending sort of dance between good and evil, like they're forever locked in.
Right.
And
battling each other.
Whatever it was, he said it is absolutely ancient. It is not of this. It is not of this realm. It is not of this world. It is absolutely ancient.
Yeah. I love that something so ancient can also look so futuristic at the same time, which is really, really rad.
Right.
You know, which does make you feel like maybe this is other dimensional, you know, at the same time. What was the impact? You said it changed his life. Like, how did this event impact your dad's life?
Well, it changed his life physically. You know, he had heart issues. You know, he had to keep it undercover for many years because he has a high profile job at healthcare. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you're dealing with that kind of stuff, you gotta kind of keep things close to the vest in terms of how you're doing things. I think anybody in any sort of like professional position still has to be pretty careful telling these stories. Yeah, you know, even pilots nowadays. You know, my friend's a Navy pilot. Okay, my next door neighbor's a Navy pilot, and they see stuff all the time. Okay, there's so much stuff that goes unrecorded. He tells me, dude, we see stuff over Malibu, out of Malibu all the time.
Oh, hell yeah.
He goes, guys don't really talk about it.
It just goes to show, I mean, like what we're finding out now is a lot of these like really incredible data-rich cases are just stuffed away in the attic somewhere because people are, you know, unwilling to talk about this because, you know, well, they don't want to be, you know, made fun of in their peer group, which I'm glad all this is sort of like going away, but it just reminds me of probably how many incredible encounters are out there that often go so untold or unreported, you know. I love this idea, this evil and good it's very, you know, as Alan Watts would say, you know, one implies the other. You can't have one without the other. And so to me, this story represents, you know, you so often hear that these delta wings, these things that fly over, like in the Phoenix Lights incidents, have sort of this sentient consciousness. And I think a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that. But what I got out of this UFO encounter for the first time was you sort of see this miasma of biological spiritual energy coalesce, sort of morph into a spherical or a UAP type objects, which then morphs into something more military looking or standard, the delta shaped thing with those plasma balls. So for me, this is like, oh, this is how these things could possibly be created. You know, maybe they're, you know, because I just love this idea. For me, this is some really rich information as to how these delta craft possibly could come into formation and then are able to break apart like we see them do into those plasma balls and come back together. Yeah. So there's some great clues in this encounter.
You know, I always wonder about the possibility if these objects even are controlled by their minds. Like it's a mind type thing where they just literally put a thought out there and this object appears. I mean, they're that advanced. That these systems are that far advanced.
Did your dad have any sense of contact with a higher intelligence or with physical beings themselves in this
He had
event?
contact with a higher intelligence. There were no physical beings that he had contact with. I just know that whatever he encountered was speaking to him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was speaking to him, obviously, within his heart and soul. So when he was experiencing all that stuff, you know, it impacted him for his entire life.
Incredible.
I've got an anecdote that might blow your mind a little bit, Adam. It's nowhere near as cool as your dad's, but this is the first time I've ever heard an encounter story that was similar to something that I actually saw years and years ago in Los Angeles. I've mentioned this on the show before, but we haven't really stopped to talk about it that much. Bryce Riley, I don't know if this will ring a bell because we haven't talked about it recently. Okay. But years ago, I was living in the Fairfax district of Hollywood, which is like pretty centralized location. And this was back in my bad boy days. I was up on my roof smoking a cigarette. And I was up there by myself and I caught a glimpse of what I thought were Roman candles being shot off a nearby roof. And I looked out to the west, so out towards where the ocean was. And, I'm not that close to the ocean, but it was a clear night and you could see pretty far. And I don't know how far out towards the water these things were, but I saw spiraling like lights shooting up into the sky. And I stared at them long enough to go, these are fireworks, except they kept going up.
Yep.
They never exploded or dissipated. And I saw them shoot up into the cloud cover and disappear. And I always have wondered what the hell that was that I saw. And there's nobody else around. But these comet-like plasma balls that your dad is describing coming down in an arc and then shooting back up into a cloud.
Yeah.
I have seen something that was similar to that, not with the rest of the production, but that's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. And they were spinning in a spiral in that same type of formation.
So let me ask you guys a question. You guys have been doing this long enough. You guys have heard all the stories. And you've developed some sort of intelligence about in terms of what's going on, and you've talked to a lot of people. What do you think is happening with all this? Do you think
no fucking clue?
No, okay. Do you think, because I'm starting to lean towards, I think,
nice.
Here's my theory.
Yeah, let's hear
it. And I
it.
might be wrong. I think we're dealing with interdimensional beings. I think that it's space. We're still trying to figure out space. I think space is stacked. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think that these dimensions, and I think that maybe at moments in time, maybe they come into our dimension. They're able to do that and they come out of our dimension. Or maybe even we are now capable of doing that. And I sometimes think after the first atomic bomb test in 1943, okay, we screwed something up. Something, you rippled space and time, something happened, something came flying in.
Hey man, you're getting into Twin Peaks The Return territory.
Well,
I'm in.
I'm not an expert.
Into this.
I'm not an expert, but I think that these people are like, okay, they have the power of the atom now. That's an issue.
Yeah.
That's what we don't want them to know how to do. And let's try to figure this out.
Or it literally ripped some type of hole into the fabric of space-time.
So I ask you guys because it's great being on the show, and for listeners, you guys take this stuff very seriously. You take your guests very seriously. My dad was so concerned about that. He's like, okay, make sure they're not joking about it. I'm like, no. This is not that kind of show. Or that, so, that's why I asked Bryce, what do you think it is from an educated standpoint, dealing with people, talking to people? What is all this? What do you think it is? Any one of you guys.
I think this is all about personal transformation. And I really do. And I don't mean to be coy with my answer in that respect, but I feel like when people observe this type of incredible phenomena, whether it be a Bigfoot on the ground, a UFO, UAP in the sky, or somebody who's coming through your bedroom window to take you up into their ship, it ultimately ends in the same thing, which is that person's life has ultimately been transformed, and it's usually through some type of trauma, which the experience can certainly indict. But after that, a phoenix is really reborn, and so a lot of this stuff, and especially in this story, it seemed so personal to him, almost as if and that's why I sort of asked about what his background was, because my belief is that whatever filter we come up with. So, in other words, if this event was seen in India, it would have been perceived through the sort of religious dogma that has pertained to somebody growing up in that sort of Hindu philosophy. So it might have been observed differently. In other words, I think the observer and their perception module plays an integral part to how this phenomenon is observed. So your dad seeing sort of these biblical angelic demons and angels, that's a motif I know, and that's one I'm comfortable with, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's how I sort of contact my phenomena as well. But in the end, I think you're onto something. I'll just sort of wrap up real quick. That's just now that doesn't mean that they're not coming from somewhere or that it isn't an ancient sentience. I like that he sort of posited that, because to me that rings off ultra-terrestrial, something that's been here way before we were here, something that inhabits this planet along with us. We're not sure what it is, but boy, can it toy with us, manipulate with us, present itself however it so pleases. And it can also encapsulate and use energy from the observer or the interface that it's taking it from. So those are just some thoughts I've been messing with. But to be honest, all this stuff comes back to us, Adam. This is our problem that we're dealing with. In other words, I don't think this stuff comes from out there. I think this is about us. It's for us, and it could be even coming from us. Now, what the purpose of it is, not quite sure. I think it's to help us transgress more efficiently and quickly through our evolutionary process so that we can get off planet.
Interesting. Very nice. My dad says, he goes, some days I wish I'd never seen any of this. I think in many ways, I think in many ways I would rather go through life without this other reality. I would be better off just going about my job, getting old, and looking forward to getting off the planet.
That's very common with experiencers. A lot of people go, God, I kind of wish this didn't happen, because it's a lot easier to go about your day when you're not thinking about what the fuck else is going on in this reality.
Well, Mike, think about this though. Most people just live out their lives, right? They live out their lives. They wake up, they go to work, they take care of their families. And like Bryce was saying, imagine if you got to look at what's really happening.
True. Riley,
it would be it'd be very hard for you to go back to normal.
I completely agree. Speaking as someone who's experienced weird shit. Riley, before we move on to a couple L files, we haven't heard much from you on this. What's your take on this story?
I mean, it sounds like a religious, psychedelic, paranormal experience where it's like each person sort of translates it through the lens that works for them. In your father's case, it sounds like it was viewed through a religious lens, but there's also, I know this feeling of like this ancient sort of being or like presence that he's talking about, and so I can relate to a lot of the ideas in this, and I do, just like as a visual thinker, love this story visually. Just this. The spiraling comets into the cloud, and then the vibrating two-dimensional planes that become the torus, that becomes these light orbs. Like it's just it's fascinating. It's like almost feels sort of mythological or something. It's
and Bryce, it would really. I'll tell you guys, it's awesome that my dad gets to see this. He's going to be. He's all about the lake. He said, "You got to send me a link to the show. You got to do this." You are more than welcome. And I hope you do put the pictures I sent to you up on the Instagram, because it'll give the readers context about what exactly.
Absolutely.
Oh, we sure will.
He spent a long time doing it.
I mean, it was such a theatrical presentation too. I mean, that's why I really loved the encounter, because that's what I love about this, is sometimes it puts on such a show, and it's like, it's just so wild.
Well, and it also too just feels like the whole thing is also, I think we sort of danced around it with the sperm shaped comets, but like going into a circle and then multiplying, like this is also a display of procreation in a lot of ways, on a very basic level.
Oh my God, I didn't even see that. You're so right. It's right there. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Well, thank you, Adam, so much for sharing that story. Please thank your father for letting us discuss it.
Incredible.
I'm sure, we've only scratched the surface of the impact that it must have left on him, but this is the type of story that boy, oh boy, we this is why we do the show. I love this stuff, and I think, as Bryce said, it's just another little clue as to the bigger picture of what's going on.
And Mike, I think also too, my dad is 70, he's 76 years old now, and I think that it's his life goal to. He doesn't want anything for this. He just wants people to know about it.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
It's a great, it's a great snapshot.
Thank you, Adam's
it's
dad.
a great snapshot of the witness too, isn't it? So often we think of the witness as some like a fame mongerer, money grabbing, like let's get on the local news. Not the case, right? More so than any, the witnesses that I've spoke to have always been like, "Hey, man, I'm a little reluctant about coming forward. This might sound a little crazy. I'm a little nervous as to what my family is going to think." And how much are you paying me again? Oh, I'm not, but I really appreciate you talking with me. Oh, yeah, right. So this is sort of the normal motif as the witness to incredible phenomena is like, look, incredible things happen to everyday people all the time, and that's it, And wow.
Couple quick notes. I want to just footnotes on this story. I want to mention for our listeners, the National UFO Reporting Center. That's the website where we've pulled from to do UFO roundup.
Yes.
In the past, and their map. So we use that as a tool, and then also the donut-shaped UFO. If that rings a bell, you might be thinking about the Maury Island UFO encounter that happened back in the 1940s, allegedly. It was one of the first big UFO stories. It brought the Men in Black into the lexicon. So you might want to brush up on that again. I was also thinking of the Chicago
O'Hare one, too, that over the gate C-13 left that fucking donut in the clouds right above, which was weird.
Love it.
Yeah, strange.
Love it. All right. Well, speaking of witnesses, let's dip into a couple L files here, Adam. We want your opinions on some of the stuff that our listeners have encountered. Bryce, why don't you read the first file out of the box?
Great. Let's do it. Black-eyed children. Hi, guys. Love the podcast. My name's Tom, and I live in a town in the UK called Stafford, not too far from a forest called Cannock Chase, which is roughly 15 to 20 minutes.
Cannock Chase.
Cannock Chase. Thank you, Michael. I gave it a try. From about 15 to 20 minutes from my home. For many years, there has been a sightings of black-eyed children in the Cannock woodland. There have also been books written about this, and it's also been covered by several other podcasts. I just thought if you haven't already heard about this phenomenon, you'd like to do some digging into the history of the woodland. Cannock Chase stretches over 20-odd miles of woodland and is a natural place of beauty where many people come to visit all around the UK. I've never witnessed a black-eyed child myself and have camped many times in the Cannock Woods, but I do have a friend who believes they witnessed one. They tend to be young children, in a lot of cases hooded, and have complete black eyes. When I was 14, me and a few of my friends decided to walk deep into the woods and camp for a night. We stayed up quite late around a small fire, and as the morning drew near, my friend Michael decided to go and get some more firewood. Well, we sat awaiting his return, and after about 15 minutes, we began to get worried about him and decided to look around the area for him. Around us were these thick fern trees, completely pitch black, and it was nearly impossible to see through. We didn't have torches because we didn't think we'd need them if we weren't moving far from camp. After shouting for what seemed like hours...
Anglophile note. Anglophile note, I just want to say for our listeners, torches are flashlights. They're not actual lit torches.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I didn't know. Okay, great. After shouting for what seemed like hours, we sat back down and waited for Michael. It must have been getting on 45 minutes now, and I was panicking at the thought of what his parents would say if we came back home without him. Our parents weren't always up there when we were. Now, then slowly, out of the darkness, Mike just casually strolled out. We were all spooked and asked him where he'd been. He didn't have any wood. He looked pretty pale, like he'd seen a ghost, and that's when he said, "I couldn't find my way back to the campfire." It was as if the trees blocked out all forms of light. Not even the moon could be seen, he said. He then went on to say he followed someone out, and when he asked who was it, he said it looked like a young girl. He couldn't see her face. She was wearing a long white dress, and as he stepped closer to where she disappeared into thin air, I'm not sure if it was a black-eyed kid or just a ghost, but the whole thing absolutely terrified us, and none of us ended up getting any sleep that night. Years later, we speak about that night, and it gives us the chills every time. We were so oblivious to all the stories we hear nowadays about all the strange goings-on. Tom. P.S. Google Raymond Leslie Morris, responsible for murdering many young girls in the 60s and disposing of their bodies in Cannock Chase. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Boy.
Wow. Excellent.
Fun postscript.
Yeah.
Well, it all links together, doesn't it? And I just wanted to say one little clarification. He said that as he stepped closer to where the group was, she disappeared. So as soon as she got him back to the group, and got him out of the woods, she vanished. What do you think about this, Adam? I don't know if you're familiar with the Black Eyed Kids story at all. This phenomenon that's taken place.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I had chills. I had chills because you can imagine a dark forest, and you're trying to get back to a campsite, and you see the silhouette of a white dressed girl that you're following back to camp, and you're like, hey,
no thing.
You know he's trying to say, hey, what's up? And then she disappears. I would probably come back to camp white as heck too.
Oh my God.
Except I'd have a stain running down my pants because I would have shit myself.
Yeah.
But what struck me the most is I think of the UK and I think about the long history there and all the stuff that's happened there, and the dark forests, and I for a fact that the energy in some of those places is probably a little off. Just saying, a lot of things have happened there for thousands and thousands of years ago. So I believe it. I think he had an experience for sure.
Yeah, to me this feels like classic Ghost. To me, I don't know if this rings Black Eyed Kid bells. Not saying the Black Eyed Kids aren't also part of this forest.
The only thing that I know about Black Eyed Kids is I remember watching this show one time, or it might have been even a book, where this lady was just like somebody knocked on the door like at 11 o'clock at night, and she looked. She pulled open the thing to look outside. She didn't have a peephole, so she pulls the curtain and looks. And this girl's looking at her right in the face. Like the girl knows she's like going to be looking at her, and she saw nothing in her eyes. And and I guess her daughter said, "Why aren't you opening the door?" And she turned to her daughter and said, "Do not open the door."
Yeah, they always want in. They want in your car. They want in your house. We did an episode on the Black Eyed Kids.
Yeah,
here's what I think.
Oh gosh, a long time ago.
I think they're demonic spirits.
I love it though.
Wow.
This is great. Yeah, haunted,
I get a real sense
spooky
of
England.
Of the fae, like a forest ghost, forest fairy sort of spirit.
Yeah,
Somewhat foreboding.
Anything that lures you.
Maybe the ghost of a victim of Raymond Leslie Morris.
Come this way with me.
Well, here's the thing though.
Never go that way.
Hey, Riley,
Well, she helped. She helped out. She got him out of the woods.
Oh,
but she can't get out of the woods.
But Riley, can you imagine you're someone knocks on your door like at 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night, and there's some kid there and freaking wearing a hood with black eyes? You're like, I ain't letting that kid in.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, kid. Go find your parents.
Kid, go find someone.
Riley, I think we have time for one more. Why don't you do the honors?
All right, let's jump into it. Hello, Bigfoot Collectors Club. My name is Antonio, and normally I'm a big skeptic, but after listening to your podcast, it opened my mind a bit more to the world of Bigfoot and shadow people.
Great.
Just those two.
Just
those
that's
two.
it. Everything else, hard no.
Hey, you got to
Bigfoot
start
and shadow
slow.
people,
You got a big toe in there. You're good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe just crack the door. We'll get you there, Antonio. To give some background on my story, both of my grandparents passed in their home. My grandfather in late punctuation threw me off a little bit.
Punctuation and spelling. It's okay.
Spelling.
Some of you guys need to proofread these letters, but it's all right. We love you.
But I'm sorry for your loss. Both of my grandparents passed in their home. My grandfather in late 2018 and my grandmother in late 2022. Both of them were a very big part in my life and helped shape me to the man I am today. So to get into the story, in early 2023, I had to go to their house because my grandma's cat was still living there. So I get to the house, open the door, and feed the cat like normal. As the cat is eating, I decided to go into my grandfather's room on the second floor. I go into his room and close the door. The reason why I went into the room is because my grandpa had some new flannel shirts he never got to wear that were in my size, so I started looking for them. After searching for a couple of minutes, I found the shirt, but behind the shirts was a big white bag. I grabbed the bag and released, and there was a zipper on it. I grabbed the zipper and opened the bag. Inside the bag was a black, dark blue suit that looked like it was straight from the 90s. I looked closely into the suit and see that it's my size, so I try that on and see that it fits perfectly. After seeing that it fits, I say out loud, hey Papa, if you don't mind, can I have your suit? Then, no more than 30 seconds later, a quick, hard knock 2 times on the bedroom door. I jumped because it was just the cat and I in the house. Then I realized that it must be the cat at the door. I opened the door and here the cat is still eating on the first floor. After that, I put the suit back in the bag and took it home. After getting home, I told my mother about it, and she said it must be your grandfather telling you that it's fine to take the suit. I know this isn't the most scary ghost story, but I think it's a good one to tell. Sincerely, Antonio.
Antonio, I love this. He also
Antonio.
included, I forgot to put it in the doc, a photo of him posing in the suit,
Oh, no way.
in front of the door that banked. But listen, all these stories don't have to be scary.
No,
you know what
no,
I mean?
I like
I
this
think
one.
this is a really lovely story. Adam, what do you think?
I think it's beautiful. I think Antonio shared something very special. I think him and his grandfather had a relationship that transcended space and time. He was able to say, hey, you know what? I'm listening to you. I'm present. I'm here. I'm not there physically, but love is a powerful thing, man. And it, you know, it's an energy and it's still there. And I think he allowed him to say, hey, you know, it's okay to take the suit. I love hearing stories like that, man.
I do too.
Those
I think
are the best.
Great. Yep.
That is great, yeah. Like Grandpa, like looking down on, probably like looking sharp, kid.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Yeah.
Knock, knock. Like,
Yeah,
I
man.
love it. It's great.
Well, you know, like the thing is, I always think about this. You know, there's this fear that we have of death, right? Like, okay, a fear of death, but it's the same thing almost. Like my dad once told me, it's the same thing as a roller coaster. You know how you're afraid to go on a really scary roller coaster, and then after you're done, you're like, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Maybe it's like that.
I think so. Man.
If death is anything like the launch at the beginning of the Incredicoaster, Disney's California Adventure, then I'll be very happy.
It's gonna be great. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing your father's story.
Yeah.
We look forward to sharing it with our listeners.
Thank you, guys.
Where can people find you, or do you have anything you want to plug? Social media, anything?
I mean, if people want to follow me on Windwalker and Chip Hal Adventures, they can do that.
Great.
You know,
Excellent.
the shows are continuing. They're just a little harder to produce nowadays. You know,
Where can people find those?
it would be on Instagram. It's called The Adventures of Windwalker.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, The Adventures of Windwalker. And yeah, man, just continuing the journey of showbiz like we all are.
There
Copy
you go,
that.
baby.
Hell
We
yeah.
love it. Thank you, Adam.
I love you guys. You guys are so great. It's
Right back at you.
it's a
man.
special moment to be with you guys. It's so awesome and wonderful.
Thanks,
Oh,
man.
thanks,
Yeah,
Well,
Adam.
thank you for being here. Oh man, love Adam. What a great guy.
What a
great energy.
Yeah, for
Everyone
sure.
needs the Adam energy
Yeah,
in their life.
agreed, man.
I don't have a lot
More
of that.
kindness
All right.
in the world.
Before we head over to our updated segment, Collector's Corner, let's thank some Club Scouts who have recently joined us on BCC The Other Side
Yes.
this past year.
Awesome.
Shelby,
Thank you.
Ryan Gall,
Thank you.
TV's Ryan Gall and past guest of the show. Thank you, Ryan.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah,
on, Ryan.
Rupture. Yeah, the last OG. Rupture Night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Felix.
We're on.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're off track.
That's all right. We got it
Your
now.
turn next, Bryce.
Bryce, you're next. Ian Ramage.
Thanks, Ian. We appreciate you, man.
Justice Robertson.
Thank you, Justice.
Rucka Jarreau, and no relation to Marcy. I already asked,
Oh,
but maybe
Cool.
distant
Thank you,
cousins.
Rucka.
Kristen Meyer.
Thank you.
Shannon Grimoud.
Thanks, Shannon.
PPR Masked.
Thank you, PPR.
Date T.
Thank you, Day T.
Carrick's Longitz.
Thank you, Carricks.
I think those last two might be aliens.
Yeah.
Corey Tucker.
Thank you, Corey.
And finally, our favorite name of the week, Trash Panda Cosmeteer.
Trash Panda, welcome to the ranks.
Sounds like a scrapped children's cartoon. Trash Panda Cosmeteer. Head over to patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club to unlock total access to 3 bonus episodes every month, the BCC Discord, and much more. Upgrade to the Cosmeteer membership like Trash Panda to unlock 3 music tracks from super producer Riley every month. Before we say goodnight, let's swing on over to the Collector's Corner to find out what we're working on and what we're currently collecting, watching, or into. I'll kick it off.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, follow us. We never mentioned at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Instagram. I'm Mick Mills over there, should you choose to follow me. But Bookie Season 1 playing on Max right now. Look for me in that. And then I'm currently playing the fuck out of Baldur's Gate 3. I'm a little late to this game. This is awesome. It's basically Dungeons and Dragons, but a video game. So complete with like 20-sided dice roll and everything.
Oh,
and,
no way.
Dude. There's also like some real heavy, sexy nudity in it, but I think you can adjust those levels if you.
Okay.
I know you would, but if you want to play with your son, you might want to adjust some of the adult stuff. But this game is fucking rad. I am currently taking down a goblin camp in some old ruins, and it's one of those where like it's the type of game where like there's not just one way to pass a mission. You can do so many different. You can figure out how to achieve your objective so many different ways. If you have like,
it sounds fun. What's the name of it again?
It's called Baldur's Gate 3. It's download only. It's on PS5, Xbox, PC.
Great.
I have a vampire in my group. I broke off from the rest of my group, and then I assassinated a goblin leader and then killed 2 wargs. It was so much fun. I love this podcast, but I know. I love this podcast. I love my fiance. Yes, but I might be in love with Baldur's Gate 3 more. So it's also I'm romancing a character in it that's making me feel a little guilty. So
Wow.
Things are getting a little hot and heavy with me in Shadowheart right now. I'm just gonna say that.
Great.
In case you're listening and you play and you wonder, I'm a dark elf. And I'm also a paladin. That's my character.
Awesome.
Boys,
I'll go next.
Bryce, what are you
let
into?
me cut you off. Let me cut you off in advance just to help you out here. I've been listening. My brother Brett gave me this great music recommendation. Have you guys heard of Coulter Wall? He's like this 28-year-old country singer from Saskatchewan, Canada. But the guy sounds like he's fucking 75 with a glass of whiskey and a Marlboro Red. His voice is so gruff and great. Anyway, I've been listening to a lot of him. He's fantastic. And then on the PS5, been hitting up that Last of Us 1 and Ratchet and Clank. And with the family, we've been watching 90 Day the Other Way, which is fantastic.
Oh, dude, love 90 Day
what
the Other Way.
What are these people doing? Oh, my gosh.
Wait.
But I love it.
So great. Jasmine and Gino.
Yeah.
I love Jasmine and Gino.
I will say anything to get in your pants on the first date, but then that's how I am,
dude,
baby.
Sarper.
Yeah,
have you gotten to the
favorite
episode where Sarper, Sarper and, oh gosh, why am I blanking on her name?
Shekinah?
Shekinah. Thank you.
Shekinah.
Have you gotten to the episode where Shekinah's sister comes into Romania to visit and Sarper says he's going to cook food just using the heat of his hands and he starts baking raw meat in his fists? Yes.
What are you guys watching?
And then her sister,
he's so sexy. I love this guy. He's so awesome.
Picked a fight with this man so she could get out of there before she had to eat raw fucking meat that had been needed in this misogynist
this is a recipe my grandfather made for 100 years. And now I cook for you.
Wow.
Beautiful hot babies
so
from America. Okay, I love it.
So great. Riley, what do you got?
What are you ingesting?
Wow. I mean, not that, but I clearly am making a mistake. Lately, I find, speaking of being behind on things, I finally am watching Dark. You know that
I never watched it. Yeah, the German.
No, I don't know what that is.
I didn't either
show?
because you can't space out on your phone because you have to read it. You know, because it's in German. But it's great and very apropos to what we were talking about today on the episode with time bending and nuclear power. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Cool.
I'm really, it's awesome. It's great. It's so beautifully shot and well acted. And it's nice to watch something that like I have to actually watch, not just like put something on and then like space out, like reading like reviews of like I don't know, microphone or something.
Yeah.
Like, so that's been great. I've been loving that. And then, I'm also, building out, some shelves, some custom, closet rods.
Nice.
It's been really
sexy carpenter man.
I'm feeling these.
Are you a sexy carpenter man now?
I do have
of course
a lot
he
of
is
tools and I got them all out, and I built. You
know how to
thing.
use them, baby.
I did. I do. Turns out, it's so fun.
Can we do a Carpenter Riley 2025 calendar next year?
Sure.
Where it's just you awesome. Doing Handyman Riley. We'll do Handyman Riley. It's just Riley being a handyman.
I'm a sucker for those woodman hacks like you see on Instagram where like they're like doing all these little hacks and these cool carpentry jobs and little. I love that stuff.
Oh yeah. Like using ramen noodles to patch your sink. That was right. Yeah. I don't know. Never mind.
Well, put that on the calendar. That'll be October.
Building shelves and watching hard German sci-fi.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to cross over to the other side for our very first ever L-Files deep dive. That's right. Might be our last one. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But we received a very intriguing voice memo from a Club Scout who was sitting down to record a story about a haunting in his family's house and then spotted a UFO. And they captured the UFO on video, and the story only gets more interesting from there. We could not fit it into this regular episode, so I said, you know what? Let's unpack it over on the other side. So that'll be up on Friday. If we don't see you over there, we'll see you back here next Wednesday for an all-new episode of BCC. Until then, good night.
And go get regressed.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray and Michael McMillan and scored and engineered by Riley Bray. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. Do us a favor and support the show and unlock 3 bonus episodes every month by becoming a member of our Patreon, BCC The Other Side, which can be found at patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub.